Mark Krueger is running for Carson City District Attorney. An experienced prosecutor, Mark serves as the Assistant DA for Carson City right now. As Chief Prosecutor, he is in charge of all civil and criminal court matters. Prior to his current post, Mark was the Assistant District Attorney in Lyon County. He has conducted over 35 criminal jury trials and has handled both simple and complex civil litigation. He is passionate about victims' rights. Mark intends to continue growing services to protect victims of crimes. He also plans to focus on community awareness and education to prevent crime and promote public safety. Meet Mark Krueger, candidate for Carson City District Attorney, next on Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
Now, Lawyers, Guns, and Money with criminal defense attorney David Houston.
Good evening and welcome to Lawyers, Guns, and Money. I'm David Houston. Mark Krueger is challenging attorney Jason Woodbury for the post of Carson City District Attorney. The present DA, Neil Rombardo, is not running for re-election. We'd like to welcome Mark to Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Mark, first of all, thank you. I know you're very busy and you've taken some time out. I like to try to talk to people who are running because I want our viewers to have a very good idea of who you are so they can make the right decision to vote for you when the time comes in order to make that decision as to who's going to be the next DA of Carson. Yeah, the first question that I always ask people is explain to the viewers who you are. You know, tell us a little bit about Mark.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Sure.
I am the current Assistant District Attorney of Carson City. I've been here since 2012. Prior to that, I was the Assistant District Attorney in Lyon County.
Right.
My career as a lawyer has expanded over the years. I've been a lawyer for 15 years. Started at the Attorney General's office. Prior to being an attorney, I had the pleasure of clerking for Judge Fondy and Judge Maddox in Carson City, as well as being an extern to Justice Maupin in the Nevada Supreme Court, which is how I ended up here. I came here from San Diego, California Western, your alma mater.
Yes, so, it's the Harvard of the West.
Of course. And so that's where I went to law school. It's been a great opportunity in Carson. It's my home, and I feel strongly and passionately about being the lead prosecutor as well as the chief of staff in Carson City.
You know, one thing that's always, and I don't want to say puzzled me, but certainly I'm curious about. I mean, you're a great lawyer. You could be in private practice, as they say, raking in the dough, but you've chosen to devote your life to public service. And I guess my question is, what about public service has so enriched you that you've chosen that as where you want to devote your skills?
I think the best way to answer that is it kind of became a passion of mine. Seeing what I call, and we use that term justice in a lot of different ways, but when you really truly at the end of the day see justice granted to victims, to the process, to everything that makes up a prosecutor, that's where I get my passion and strength, and I've become a career prosecutor because of that.
And when you were in Lyon County, of course, Lyon County is adjacent to Carson.
Yes.
And you came over from Lyon County. How long were you the Assistant DA in Lyon County?
Nearly 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's an Assistant DA do?
Assistant District Attorney is the chief of staff of the entire district attorney's office.
Okay.
The assistant district attorney is responsible for the chief criminal prosecutor, leading a team of prosecutors in evaluating and deciding whether to charge in a case, and then when we do decide to charge in a case, then prosecuting it all the way through a jury trial in many cases.
Yeah, and it's true then that you have deputy DAs that essentially work under you. So you've got the DA, you, the assistant DA, and then the deputy DAs.
That's correct. In addition to that, I also am a chief over the whole civil division, which has deputy district attorneys in that arena as well. We're responsible for giving legal advice to the city, the board of supervisors, and the city as a whole is our like a corporation, is our client. In addition to that, of course, we have budgetary issues. The Assistant District Attorney is hands-on in helping to make sure that we're running efficiently and saving taxpayer money by having a budget that doesn't exceed in scope but covers the expenses that we have, and a lot of them are expenses that we don't know what we're going to face in that upcoming year because we can't tell what crimes are going to occur during the next budget year. Wow. And finally, of course, it's supervision. So it's managing everybody from the deputy district attorneys all the way to the legal assistants and everybody that makes a key component to making the team of the district attorney's office run efficiently, smoothly, and with little error as possible.
You know, after all you described, I'm going to assume you're putting in at least 3-4 hours a day. You know, it's remarkable to me the amount of time that it actually takes to do the job, and it seems as though the office obviously has been set up and you're running it well at this point. Do you see anything in the future that you think to be an important consideration? In other words, if you're elected DA, where do you have your sights set as far as, well, we can expect this to be happening? I mean, there are always trends. I think we've even talked to Ken Furlong about that, the sheriff.
There's true. There always are trends. And in fact, I've identified one of those trends just by being in Carson and prosecuting. I've noticed that there is an increase on embezzlement crimes. And the thought occurred to me that, well, if we could somehow reach out to the public and educate these business owners on how to prevent embezzlement from occurring in the first place, right, it would save them a lot of turmoil. We wouldn't have the crime occur to begin with. Basically, I set up the business protection program. It's a brand new program in its infancy, but we're making headway to try to reach out and educate our business owners on tools and implement tools that they can use to prevent embezzlement from occurring in the first place. One of the victims that we've had recently was subject to $250,000, all because of checks and balances that weren't in place in this person's position as the manager of the finances, and that just opens up an opportunity for them to take advantage of it.
Well, and you know, especially in embezzlement cases, sometimes you'll have people that aren't described as career criminals in it for malice. I mean, there are people that might have a drug problem, a gambling problem, a drinking problem, and if that hole is there, it does create that element of temptation that allows couple of things to happen. Tragic consequence for the business owner, tragic consequence for the person who stepped into the looking glass and unfortunately started becoming something they didn't want to be. So is this a program that's readily available for anybody that wants to take advantage of it in Carson?
It is a program that's designed for us to reach out with a local accounting firm to educate these business owners. We are in the process of setting up those meetings to do the education. We've already developed a brochure that already gives tips and ideas to be able to stop those types of crimes from occurring in the first place. But you're right, what it leads to is victims. Sure. And that's why we have a victim witness services program. It's very effective in reaching out to both the main victim that you have and tertiary victims. Those would be victims that have maybe witnessed a crime. Those victims can also be victims subject to violent crimes or sexual crimes. And what I also want to do is reach out and develop a courthouse dog, a dog that would work as a companion aid to comfort victims, to be able to go and give them the strength to be able to testify in a courtroom. That courtroom can be a very intimidating place to adults, and you know that. So you can imagine a little child having to walk in and tell their events of what happened to them. And it's something with all the people in the courtroom and the perpetrator sitting right there. It can be very intimidating. It's been scientifically proven that animals such as a dog, a service dog, can actually provide that comfort and that protection to them so that it enables them to be able to comfortably speak in the courtroom.
You know, that is amazing, because I know people might think, what, did he just say, a courtroom dog? And the fact of the matter is they're using that in a number of cases. I know in California they had a pilot project where that actually was the item to accompany a witness to the witness stand. And it's amazing the calming effect that animals have. And it's turned out to be such a good project that I'm surprised it hadn't been adopted in more places, really.
Well, and in fact, I've looked into it, and the places that it has occurred has been primarily on the West Coast. But as of yet, this will be the first program in Nevada if we're successful in getting it started.
Interesting, because that really does make a difference. And I know people, sometimes if you've never been a witness or you never have been in the system and felt whether you're a defendant, whether you're a witness, whether you're a victim, there is that overwhelming court experience. You've never been there before, and obviously it does create for all parties a significant stress level.
That's correct.
And we're going to have to take a break here in a moment, but when we return, I would like to talk to you a little bit about your philosophy as it concerns our specialty courts. Are they good? Are they bad? Do they need changes? Where do we get our benefits from them? So if you would, think about that for a moment, and we're going to be back with Mark Krueger, so don't go away. Welcome back to Lawyers, Guns, and Money. My name is David Houston, and joining me today is Mark Krueger. Mark is seeking the office of District Attorney of Carson City County, and the end result is Mark is now the Assistant District Attorney, essentially in part, certainly responsible for the workings of that office. And Mark, when we left prior to commercial, I had asked you a question about specialty courts, and can you give our viewers an idea of what specialty courts are and whether you think they're a good tool of the criminal justice system or maybe not so good, or what your thoughts are?
Well, specialty courts are a good tool for the criminal system. They're something that primarily result in reducing recidivism, reducing the amount of times that people are going to commit crimes again, and also saving taxpayer money. So one of the things that we're very proud of in Carson City, and it's our mental health court, that is a specialty court that has shown time and time again its success. People can be placed into, and it is a very developed screening process that goes into placing an application and acceptance into that program.
Right.
But if you are able to get into the mental health program, what they've done is they've realized that some people need some assistance from a mental health standpoint to be able to get on track again. And then by doing so, they're going to naturally reduce the amount of crimes that they might have a propensity to commit. And that has been a glaring success in Carson City. We also share in the drug court program.
Right.
Drug court has a very unique stance on how it approaches drug crimes, and that is to give a perpetrator who's on the drug track a chance to get off of the drug track by giving them a reward, and the reward is to not brand them as a felon for the rest of their life, which makes it more difficult to be a contributing member of society, to actually go out and get a job and do things that need to be done to be a good taxpayer. Once you're off that very addicting substance of usually a methamphetamine, heroin, and other controlled substances, you have the ability to break free from that, and that drug court provides that opportunity to these individuals who qualify. Naturally, we don't want to put everybody into drug court. You certainly don't want to put people who are, sellers of controlled substances, and or traffickers of controlled substances. Somebody that's promoting the drug trade isn't a member that should be allowed in there. But somebody who is an end user who needs to get off the drug itself, that gives them an opportunity, and they get counseling, they get services, and the goal there is rehabilitative justice. And you know what's the ironic about that? Is if you look back at our judicial system and our criminal system, our adult system is based on a punitive system of justice, right? You do the crime, you're going to do the time. That's what they say. And our juvenile system is based on a rehabilitative system of justice. So specialty courts aren't a new thing. They've been around for the juvenile courts for a long time, but they're new to the adult court. Some of them are now getting up there in age, and they're showing their success rates.
Right.
So,
well, interestingly, and I know from obviously personal experience being on one side of the courtroom, you of course on the other, and you and I have had cases together.
Of course.
It's not unusual for a prosecutor and a defense lawyer to actually agree, hey, this person is worth salvaging. The real problem here is a controlled substance habit. But do you agree with me also that if you can get that person cured, the chances of the other criminal acts that might have been committed, embezzlement, burglary, grand larceny, all of these things that someone might do in order to feed the drug habit also are a method then of preventing additional crime in the future. So I've really never seen the statistics, but I can imagine it's not just saving one person from one prison sentence at $40,000 a year. We're saving that one person from that prison sentence and potentially other prosecutions and other prison sentences. The cost starts to be somewhat exponential at that point.
I agree with you that as a cost-saving tool, these specialty courts work. They do work. But what's more, and I brought you to this theme earlier on, it's about justice.
Right.
And really what we're trying to do is seek justice for everybody, because it's not just the perpetrator that's committing these criminal acts that ends up being harmful to society. It's the harm that's created by that criminal act to both the victim that was the subject of the criminal act, as well as other family members. We see these in all kinds of cases. You and I have had the collateral impact of family members who didn't even know the crime was going to occur is immense. And a lot of times, if you can, in the right cases, I mean, you got to qualify that, because certain cases and certain crimes of violence we need to prosecute, and justice is going to be seen to have that punitive action taken. But in the right cases where you have these users of drugs that can and want to get off of that drug track, but for that addiction, this allows them to do that, and it does save money, just like you're saying.
You know, when your office looks at a case, what do you look for to make a determination as to whether or not you think, well, that person would be good for a deferred court? What do you look at personally?
You know, we look at cases that come in after an investigation or an arrest and investigation from the sheriff's office.
Right.
They're the investigating branch. And then we look, as we said, as almost a check and balance to the investigators. We're looking right away to see whether or not, number one, did the crime occur? Number two, do we have the right person if the crime occurred? And three, if the crime occurred and we have the right person, can we prove it beyond a reasonable doubt?
Right.
And that's our standard, and you know very well, as working with me and in many cases that you've had over the years, when you say those words, beyond a reasonable doubt, that is a high threshold.
Sure.
And it's supposed to be that way. And it's supposed to be that way because it's fairness. Fairness to the entire system, fairness to the defense, fairness to the state and prosecution. Because you know the double irony behind all of this. Let's say we finally successfully convict somebody. At the end of the day, what do?
Right.
After all the appeals are exhausted, they accuse you, defense attorneys.
Of being
they
ineffective.
say ineffective assistance to counsel, and guess who defends you? We do.
Yeah, isn't that?
So we have to make sure that the process is fair, because at the end of the day, we're going to protect the process and defend the process to show that it was fair to get to the result we wanted.
Now, just as this is just a side note question for me. As a prosecutor, is it difficult not to become personally invested? And maybe you do, but I can imagine as a prosecutor how difficult that would be if you got personally invested in every case. I mean, you know, where you're really prosecuting because you feel it internally. I would think that would drive you crazy after a while.
You need to set work aside and go home at night and spend time with your family. It's important for everyone in every profession to do that. What I see in the cases that I decide to prosecute and that I can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and I try to teach my prosecutors this, is you need to believe in it. So to a degree, you need to be emotionally invested, because if you don't believe this crime happened, you're not going to convince other people that it did.
Sure.
And you're not going to want to go forward, because if you don't believe it happened, that wouldn't be the just result. But if you believe it happened and you go forward, you need to put your heart and soul into it. And you do that by making sure the process is fair all the way through. And at the end of the day, when the jury comes back and convicts somebody, you know that justice has been served.
Right, and even if they didn't, when they come back, you know you did your job and you did the best you could do.
Absolutely.
And we're going to have to take a break for a commercial, but I want to return and talk to you about how important it is that you have the working knowledge you have of the office at this point, as far as the DA's office continuing on in the future in the same direction, basically under new leadership, of course, but at the same point with the same thoughts involved. So don't go away. We'll be talking to Mark Krueger, seeking the office of District Attorney in Carson City, in one moment. Welcome back to Lawyers, Guns, and Money. I'm David Houston. Joining me today is Mark Krueger. Mark is seeking the office of District Attorney of Carson City, Carson County. And Mark, of course, is with us talking about why he feels he would be the best person to be in that job. And Mark, one of the questions that I have for you has to do with this. You're there and have been there now for a considerable period of time. You've essentially played a big part in running the office to a significant degree. How important is that in reference to why you feel you're the best candidate for district attorney?
It really comes down to experience. And I think a great example is that my experience shines above everybody else that is running for this position. I have done 38 jury trials, and you ask, well, is that a big number? It is, actually. 38 jury trials compared to my opponent, who has done less than a handful, I believe 2 or 3 only. That's a huge change in experience. As you know, jury trials take a lot of work. They take an exorbitant amount of time to put an effort to put into them, and I've done that over and over again. I've been successful. That experience is best exemplified in leadership. And I bring that leadership to the office. I've brought it to the office. I've changed the office. Even under our current district attorney, I've made changes to make it more efficient. I'm in the process of going to electronic discovery, complete electronic discovery.
That's very helpful.
So that it'd be helpful for everybody. It's more efficient, and of course it saves taxpayers money. It's cost savings. In addition to that, I'm looking at making a career path for prosecutors. I've redesigned the way that we prosecute crimes. I've spent extra time training these new prosecutors and giving them the skills that will enable them to be good prosecutors and get themselves as many jury trials as they need and feel comfortable with to feel like they've gotten what it takes to have their goal in life of being a career prosecutor.
Right.
I want people to succeed. I take pride in seeing them do things that I've educated them and trained them to do, and it's great to see them interact. In addition, keep up a good rapport with the defense bar and with the public. And we're essentially an office that has a different, unique outlook. We're there to help protect the public, save taxpayer money, and in addition, make sure that the process is done fairly and justly. It comes back to justice. And I have that leadership, that skill of being there for so long, knowing the crimes in Carson City, knowing the things that have come and gone, the differences in the different types of drugs that we see come and proliferate and then back off. And what I'm able to do is take that experience and say, okay, where do we need to concentrate our efforts? Where, working with the sheriff's office, do we need to see stuff? We attacked gangs. The sheriff's office and the district attorney's office have worked together to pretty much virtually end gangs in Carson City. We're right on top of graffiti. These are things that we work together to do, provide victim services. All of these things are intimate knowledge that I have about the process of the office and the workings of the office, and I bring that to the table. And my leadership has been demonstrated over and over again. And you'll reach out and talk to people, and you can see the results. People are happy. They're happy with the results that we've had.
Right, right.
And we're in the paper all the time because we're tough on crime. We're tough. We don't take huge amounts of money from the defense bar. For this campaign, I haven't done it. My opponent has. But here I am, tough on crime. I'm not going to back down just because somebody wants a better deal. I'm going to do what's right for all the parties involved, and what's right for the victims. Those are the decisions I make when I lead this team.
Right.
Our deputy DAs that have come together like no other. They're the strongest team. I don't even have to ask them to cover. They volunteer to cover for each other. They want to do what's right.
You know, it's just listening to you, I think you do emote the passion for the job, and I want to thank you for joining us. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Meet Mark Krueger, running for district attorney, Carson City. Fine man, fine candidate. You have a great Sunday.